Hi, Lawrence LeBrocq, Managing Partner of Garces, Grabler, LeBrocq, and welcome to our podcast, Victim to Victory, Triumph Over Tragedy. Today I have the privilege of having Roberto Basantes, an incredible paralegal, came from Ecuador when he was 5 years of age, also a Golden Glove champion, and now trains professional prize fighters. Roberto, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Pleasure to have you here. So tell us a little bit about your journey. You came over from Ecuador when you were 5 years of age with your mother. Now, you probably don't remember too much about that, but
I remember.
You do remember?
I do remember.
So tell us about that trip.
So originally my dad came, he migrated first. Then a year later he sent for me and my mom. And it was a tough experience because I was only 5 years old and we depended on what they called a coyote, somebody that gears where you're gonna go and all that stuff. I remember because I was the only kid there, my mom was the only girl, and everybody else was men. So basically I had to man up at a young age because I was afraid that they would do anything to my mom, you know? But yeah, it was a tough experience. We walked through a desert. We went through we had to use a rail made out of string to go under the water. I remember when we got to the border of California and Mexico, the other guys just ran because the coyote said, "You got a chance to run now." At that point, my mom, she's very religious, so she was carrying something in her hand, and at the same time, me. And we were running, and she dropped her Virgin Mary by accident. When she went to pick it up, she dropped me. So at that point, she's desperate, going into trying to pick up her rosary, her whatever she had in her hand, and me, and then the helicopter came, which was ICE. Right. They were telling us to stop, and that's why my mom is my hero, because I don't know how she did it. I was bleeding from here. I had no shoes. All my clothes were full of blood. She picked me up. She just ran, opened the gate, and we made it to the other side. Once we got to the other side, there was a van waiting for us there. That's when they got us in, and then they took us to a home where she was able to call my dad, and we had to make the next deposit. But yeah, it was a tough experience.
So you came over, across the border when you're 5 years of age.
5 years old.
And then where did you go to from there?
So from there, from California, they called my dad. My dad was residing in Newark. At that time, it wasn't that difficult, so we actually went on plane from California to Newark. And we lived there for a while. Then my mom had a cousin in North Brunswick who took us in. But then, it was tough because we were living in a one room, just me and my mom, no bed, anything, nothing like that. And, sometimes here when they said a family member is supposed to help you out, it was worse. I remember their daughter used to hide the food from me, like cereals, or I would go and she'll step on my fingers and make fun of me and stuff like that. So eventually my dad, he's a bodyman. So little by little he found a place where he adapted, and then he was able to get a little bit more income. We took us out, and I technically lived in North Brunswick my whole life. Started kindergarten there, middle school, high school, and then from there.
And when you say a body man, we're talking about a body mechanic.
Body mechanic,
cars,
fixes collision man.
Right.
Fixes cars, paints them, puts them back together.
So how long did it take, when you came over, did you speak English?
No.
And where did you start going to school?
In kindergarten.
Right.
Judd School was my kindergarten school.
And then you matriculated through the North Brunswick school system?
Yeah. The ESL program helped me out a lot. Once I was already in elementary school, I spoke English.
Okay.
But my parents always raised me speaking Spanish, so that's why I never, for example, my brothers, they were born here, but when they speak Spanish, you don't understand them. So.
Really?
Yeah.
So when you say they speak Spanish, you don't understand them. How come?
Because they speak it very different. They pronounce words very different. So.
Why, is there a different dialect in Ecuador than there is here?
It is, but they mix Spanish and English. That's what I'm trying to say.
All right.
So it's difficult to understand them.
So a little Spanglish?
Correct.
A little bit? Yeah.
Correct.
All right, so now you're 5, did you make it through high school?
I made it through high school. So when I was in high school, it was funny because I always had a passion for boxing. And when I was in high school, I did an event where I got a couple of people and I said, hey, let's go to the back of my yard. I used to live in an apartment complex, so in the back was a big yard. So what I did was I got 4 sticks and I put tape around it, and we actually made fights, And people started coming over, and then I actually got in the ring, and a couple of people were like, hey man, you're pretty good, why aren't you? And I was like, nah, it's just, and then my dad always kept me busy, so he got me into karate. I actually was a black belt, and then from there, I was like, no, I want to do boxing, and we found a gym that opened up in New Brunswick. So we went, and I met the guy, Steve Rivera, who was my first coach, and it was hard because Taekwondo and boxing is two different things. So I was stiff. And then eventually, I picked it up, and I was I'm still short. My tactic was always a body, and I used to fight people that were tall. So I remember my first 5 amateur fights, I won them all. I remember this one coach who used to, I forgot his name, let me see his name. What's it called? Olympic medalist coach. He saw me with another coach, and he says, hey, that guy, all he does is make you spar, why don't you come to us? And thanks to them, I got more knowledge. And they helped me go to the Golden Gloves twice. So.
And you went to the Golden Gloves twice, finalist twice, and you're a Golden Glove champion.
Yes, in the 1 year. And in my family, I'm probably the first Ecuadorian to box in my family.
Right.
Everybody else is into soccer and all that stuff. So when they mentioned, oh, you like boxing? I'm like, yeah.
And how many years did you box as an amateur?
For like about 4 years.
And where did you box out of? What
At
gym?
a gym called, it's called Brunswick Boxing Gym, but it used to be New Brunswick Boxing Club before.
All right.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your working career other than...
I supposedly thought I was going to be a professional, and then I dislocated my shoulder. And my dad always told me, look, I come from a family where I lost my parents when I was 12. I've given you the best. I want you to go to school. I want you to be better than me. But I went to Middlesex College. I went for 2 years, and I didn't like it. So then my dad was like, why don't you learn my trade? At that time, before 9/11, it was easy to find somebody that you give them 2 passport pictures and they'll come back and give you paperwork, supposedly, to work. So my dad was working at called DCH Toyota,
Yep.
and he got me in when I was 17. I started as what's called a porter, throw out garbage and all that stuff. And I made my way up little by little until one day I remember this guy from Pennsylvania, he was the new manager there. And he says, you've been here since you were 17 or what now, 24? He's like, and you don't want to do anything? You don't want to learn anything? I said, for what? And he said, what do you mean? I was like, the quality, and I was being an asshole. I was like, the quality that you guys do here is like, you don't care about the client. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, you guys, the body men here, they want to worry about their hours and get paid, not about the quality of what the client would like to see. He said, show me an example. And I showed him, I said, look at that car. It doesn't match the paint. There's this, there's that. And he was impressed. And he said, I thought he was going to fire me. He said, I need you to meeting. And he had a meeting saying that from now on, I'm going to be the QC manager. And that's how I started. I got my own office. And I was like, wow, after all these years. And I was doing good. And then I had my daughter, too. Me and the mom didn't work out, but I was, I had an apartment where my daughter came on the weekends. And life was good. I became like a family to Toyota. So they had the body shop, which I worked from 9 to 5. Then the service department, I went there from 6 to 9. And then Saturdays, I drove their shuttle. So I was busy with them.
Sure.
Again, Toyota and GGL has been my only 2 jobs. So I've never been a person to jump from one job to another. After being a QC manager, I was good. Got my own apartment, had my own car, and I remember it was around August. There's a holiday in September. I forgot which one it was. Which one is it? Labor Day. Yes. It was Labor Day weekend. I came back, my normal routine. I used to go get my coffee. The front desk, I used to see the front desk. And I can tell in her face that something was wrong. I said, everything okay? She's like, yeah. And then she's like, well, not okay. I'm like, why? She's like, there's 2 officials here looking for you. I'm like, for me? Like, what did I do? I've never been in trouble. So yeah, I was like, okay. Then I said, hey, how you doing, officers? How you doing? I was like, you here to see me? They're like, yeah, okay. And right away, I can tell that something was wrong. And they asked me, they were like, we're gonna ask you a couple of questions. And then I felt embarrassed because since I was a QC manager, my office was facing where the warehouse was.
Sure.
So I was afraid because my dad was working there, and they went and told my dad. So my dad, he was going back and forth. So I said to them, I said, look, I have my own apartment, which is literally the next complex over. Why don't we go over there and we can talk? So I said, okay. They said, okay. We went and talked, and long story short, they said to me, we're here because we know that the number that you're working with is not yours. When they referred number, it was Social Security.
Number, yeah.
And I said to them, okay, I was honest with them. I said, okay, yeah, I mean, I'm just doing what everybody does to live a normal life. I have my daughter here. You can see pictures here and everything. I believe they were marshals to this day because I know they were all wearing green, but they were wearing ICE. So what happened is that Social Security number that I thought was fake was actually real. And the reason how they came to me was because this Social Security belonged to a lady in Pennsylvania, Morristown, Pennsylvania. She got into like an accident, or she tried to file for disability. And when they did that, they found out that no, the number's being used, and that's how they got caught on to me. So their job that day was to, lock me up, extradite me because different jurisdictions. But they were saying that I was cooperative. They saw my daughter's pictures. They saw that I have no harm. They told me to wait and that I was going to get a court date, which was true. At that time, I didn't know anything about law and everything like that. So I depended on my family attorney, and he told me, no, just go to court. Like any usual court, they're going to ask you for another court hearing, then you hire me. And it was September 25th, which I still remember to this day. I went. It's like they were waiting for me. So that day, I'm a believer in signs and dreams, and I started seeing a lot of stuff that dealt with like getting locked up, or I was waking up sweating, thinking I was in a cell, Right. And that day when I got to the office, the police station, a police officer came to my car, and he asked me right away, he was like, who's that little girl? And I'm like, it's my daughter. He's like, well, who's that? I'm like, that's my mom. He's like, can you please give her? I'm like, for what? I'm here for court. He's like, can you please cooperate and give it? I'm like, okay. Well, that then and there, I didn't know that they were going to read me my rights right in front of my family. So they handcuffed me. They took me in. He can see the officer that at the beginning who I thought was racist ended up being, to me now, to this day, now that I look at it, somebody who really helped me out. Why? Because at the beginning he was very harsh with me. When he was fingerprinting me, he saw that I was shaking, and he was like, stay still and stuff like that. But I think what really got to him was I was able to see the judge the same day through a camera, and he basically said, you're here for identity theft. That's very federal. What you did is wrong. It means by possibility that you may never see light in the United States ever again because ICE already has a detainer on you, blah, blah, blah. And even if you pay bail, you're not going to be able to get out anytime soon. Okay, so the same officer, I asked him, I said, hey, I live 2 hours from here. I don't know if I'm ever going to see my family or my daughter again. Can you at least please give me like 1 minute with them? And he was like, yeah, sure. So I guess he saw my mom, my dad, they were hugging me, whatever. And that same officer was the one that took me to the county where I was going to serve my time. On our way over there, he like scared me because he stopped the car, like, let's say 3 blocks. And he said, hey man, at the end of the day, I'm a human being. I'm an officer, but I'm also a human being. And I can see it in you that you're not a person that's bad, And he was like, where I'm taking you now is where you're gonna stay at. And he's like, but I see how your family, you guys are not from around here. And he says, do you know anybody's telephone number by heart? I said, yeah, but my dad. And he was like, okay, please don't do nothing stupid. He got out the car, he handcuffed me from the top, put it in the front, and he sat me next to him. And he said, dial your dad's number. And he said, this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna tell him to follow us to where I'm taking you. Obviously, I'm gonna take you to where you're gonna go. And then tell them to go to the front, where all the visitors and all that stuff, and tell them to look for Michael McMahon, who's an attorney in Pennsylvania. He's like, that's a personal friend of mine. He's one of the best. Your case looks very difficult, but I believe he can help your family. And that's how it was.
Wow.
It was a Friday. I went, obviously in the prison system. Sunday, they came and said, hey, Basantes, you have a visitor. And it was the attorney. And he was straight with me. He said, listen, your case is tough. Immigration already has a detainer on you. They already know everything about you. But not only am I going to be able to get you out of this, but then it's going to be immigration, depending on them, because it's 2 different cases.
Sure.
And, I said, okay. And he told me, you have to be patient. It has to be maybe at least 8 months. And I said, 8 months? I said, I can't even do 3 days. I'm already, So then, he was really good. We had our first court hearing, which is, I forgot the word, but it was where they're going to read the...
An arraignment.
Correct, that one. I didn't sleep, so by the time I slept, they already woke me up and said, hey, it's court time. So I didn't get enough time to change. I didn't know that my dad actually filled up my courtroom with a lot of people. A lot of my family from my mom's side, my dad's side. And what's funny is that my mom tells me now that she was with my daughter, and the lady next to her was actually the lady who was pressing charges. So she was playing with my daughter and stuff like that. Obviously, they exaggerate here, so when I walked in the courtroom, I was chained up from the bottom to my knees to that. So I think the shingles of the sound made my mom very emotional. So she broke down, and then I remember we went up to the front. The two attorneys said, let's go behind chambers. My attorney came out and said, hey, good news. She said she felt bad. She wants to drop the charges. But Pennsylvania is a Commonwealth state, so they're going to have to pick it up anyway. He said, but it's a little bit easier for me now to fight your case. And I said, okay. Again, he gave me an opportunity to talk to my family. And then I went back. I had 3 more court dates. And the guy was really good. He got me out. I was September, October, November, December. I was able to fight that case. He got me out. I was happy, but then boom, immigration, I have to go face them now.
Right.
I was there for like 2 weeks, also in there, seeing what's going to happen with my future. I used to tell my parents, once you were in immigration, they gave you 2 options. Either you sign your deportation or you fight your case. But a lot of people were telling me in there that they were there for minor stuff and they had been seeing a judge in like 5 months. So mentally, I was already messed up, So I was telling my mom, that's it, I'm done. If I have to have my daughter visit me when she's older, but I can't. I fought enough. I can't do this no more. I'm seeing things here that are going crazy. And I don't know, I think it was God and luck that the judge saw me. He asked me 2 questions. He said, you speak English? You speak very well English? He's like, we're going to give you an opportunity to fight your case on a bail. But if you try to leave the country, you're going to become a fugitive. And just participate, and that's how it was. I came out, and a year later, President Obama was the president at that time, and he's the one that passed this DACA, which I qualified. My attorney did an application, and a year later, my work permit came. But before that, after coming out, it was depressing. I lost everything. I had my apartment, my car, and the reason why I do a lot for my parents is because if it wasn't for them, I think I would have been completely lost.
And now you got a Social Security number when you were 17 or so, right, to go to work?
Correct.
You had no idea it was somebody else's Social
No
Security
idea.
number.
No idea. And now looking back, because see, I only used that Social Security to work. I never used it for credit. I never used it for anything. And I laugh now because I remember when I went to a Sears, which is not open anymore. They're here, you want to apply for, I'm like, no. And one time I was like, no, oh, you're approved. I'm like, approved? How am I approved if supposedly it's fake? But, I never got the card.
Right.
But now looking back, I'm like, wow, that number, which I thought was fake, was actually real. Yeah, so then going back to what we were saying, before my work permit came, but before that, I always had a responsibility, which was my daughter. So I tell it now, the story to my daughter, I said, look, I don't regret. I used to go to restaurants and say, hey, can I wash dishes for whatever. I did landscaping, wash cars. I was even doing cabin without a license, you know what I mean? And then when my work permit came, I was able to get my social, my license, and I applied for a warehouse. While I was in the warehouse, Rudy, who was an employee at GGL, who was also one of my good friends, we went to high school together, he reached out to me and said, hey, I saw your post on Facebook, congratulations. He's like, are you interested in switching jobs? And I'm like, are you working right now? I said, yeah, I'm at a warehouse right now. And he's like, how about I offer you a job here at the law firm? And I said, doing what? And he's like, well, I'm an investigator there, but now, give me an opportunity to learn something else. And hey, why not take a shot at it?
And at that time, what was an investigator?
An investigator was, at that time, GGL was, you guys had that group, Men Legal.
Right.
It was a group that would have services for clients that can't come to the office. Investigators like myself would go there. So it was not like an investigation. It was like we would go to the people's houses when they can't come to us.
Right.
See if the case was worth it. If it was signed it up, we'll sign it up. and it would be a step easier. Instead of the client waiting for the attorney to reach out to them, we went to them first. That's how it was. So then I said, I mean, I don't know anything about the law, Rooney. Like, he's like, me neither, but this law firm gave me the opportunity to learn, and I thought about you. So I went home that day and I was like, well, he has his brother, he has cousins. Why do you think about me, you know? And I said, okay. I called him back and I was like, what do I need to do? And he was like, well, Will Garces, who's the founder, wants to meet you. And I remember it was a Saturday morning. I went. I'm already working at the warehouse, and they already liked me there. They said, oh, we want to teach you how to do machines and all that stuff. I was getting adapted, basically, and then I met Will. And I don't know, I think Will liked me or something. He asked me 2 questions, and I was very sincere. I said, look, I don't know anything about the law. I can just tell you that I come from a background from a body shop, but I can tell you 2 things. I like to learn, and when I work at a place, I like to work like that job is my family. So if you give me the opportunity, then I can demonstrate to you what I can do. And he says, I like you, I want to hire you right now. I said, let me give 2 weeks notice to the new job. That's how it started. He was supposed to train me. And then 3 days after, I was by myself. So my job was basically on call. Cases in all over tri-state of New Jersey, from up north to south on the weekends. One day I went to Newark and I said, Rooney, what do you do? And he says, this is what I do. I said, I want to learn. And he's like, okay. And
Because Rooney wasn't an investigator, he was a paralegal.
He was a paralegal. He went from the investigator to paralegal.
Right.
He gave me a book that he had and I read it. And then I used to go on my free times, go to the Newark office and help him out with the paperwork, you know, the letters of rep and stuff like that. And how I really picked up was translating for the attorney, for workers' comp.
Right.
I heard Will saying that he wanted to open up a new office, and I heard Hackensack was in his mind. And I went to him and I said, hey, you know, I've been working for you for a while. I've proven myself to you that I can work. Whenever you have an opportunity of an office, let me know. And I got married around that time, and he was, they say, the godfather of the wedding. He was there, and I remember he gave me 2 cards. One of them was like, open this when you come from your honeymoon, and this is a present from me. So when I opened it, it was a key. It was the key to Hackensack, and he said, you asked me for this opportunity, here it goes, either you swim or you drown. And I took that as a challenge, which
Right.
I went to a different county where I didn't know anything about.
And now, just so you know, people that don't realize how far
yeah.
North Brunswick
Yeah.
is from
Yeah,
Hackensack. It's a good hour.
It's a good hour, yeah.
Commute
Good
back and forth. And with traffic, it's probably more like an hour and a half to 2
yeah.
hours battling traffic every
correct.
day. So you got that opportunity. So let's stop there. That you're going into this new office for GGL, a Hackensack office, to start. Talk about some of the mental challenges now. You go from working at Toyota. From 17 to 24, you're now in a management position.
Correct.
And you get arrested. You're using, unbeknownst to you, a social security number that you thought was just fake so
Correct.
you could get a
To
job,
work,
to work, but you find out it's somebody else's, and you have to go through this with the detainer, the arrest, the loss of your job. How are you doing mentally? I mean, you have a daughter. Any struggles there?
At that time?
Yeah.
A lot.
Talk about those, please.
I felt in a very dark position. It's gonna sound weird, but I actually felt more at peace when I was there inside, because I thought about a lot of things. I thought about if I was ever gonna see my daughter or my parents again. I limited them from visiting me because every time they visited me, it was very sentimental because it was not an in-person, it was over a mirror, you know, and then to see them on the other side, or my mom put her hand on the window, all that mentally affected me. When I came out, I thought I was gonna feel like I was free, I was gonna, you know what I mean? But it was terrible. I fell into depression. I started drinking a lot. Not suicidal talk, but to the point where I was like, I wanted to give up, because I felt like, wow, I went from having an apartment, a good job, a brand new car, to the streets basically, you know? That's why I said if it wasn't for my parents who mentally pushed me to be better, or my daughter as well, like as a motivation. But yeah, there was opportunities inside, because I was in a prison where the population, it was so much people there, so they couldn't transfer us, and we were like sleep with a lot of people very close, and or sometimes in cells, this is my experience, I was in there with somebody who actually murdered somebody because they didn't have enough room for me to go. So me to be with somebody there and to tell you, hey, from now on, it's what I say, you got to do this, you got to do that. And, the next day they moved them somewhere else. I felt relief. But, like I said, it was days there that I just wanted to give up, especially when they would tell you stories that, oh, well, with your type of case, you're probably going to be gone for a while and this and that. And all that stuff eventually, like I said, when I came out, it hit hard on me. I fell into depression. Alcohol was a big part of my life. But, thanks to God, thanks to my parents, thanks to my daughter, counseling was something that I chose. And that's how I got back into the boxing, because one of the counselors was like, hey, so you're working now, you have a daughter, you have your parents, why are you feeling this way? I'm like, because you don't understand the stuff that I've been through in there, And then she says, well, what else is your passion? I said, you're not gonna laugh? She's like, what do you mean? I was like, because when I used to box, I wasn't this big. So she was like, what do you mean? I was like, boxing is my therapy. She's like, maybe you should go back to it. And I said, no, and then I did.
Right.
I did, and that's when I started working out for myself. I was doing good, and then COVID happened. They closed everything down. So that gym actually opened up like a boot camp when it was okay, and still you couldn't have contact, but they was outside. They did like a little boot camp outside, and they reached out to me and said, hey, we want to know if you can come help out as a coach with the kids, and it's been history since there.
So let's go back now. You're working in Hackensack as a paralegal now,
Correct.
right? You're the face of GGL in Hackensack in the office.
Correct.
And talk about building that office, the challenge that you took on, because
Yeah.
it's sink or swim. There's a lot of that at GGL.
So when the position came forward, I wanted to see the location first, and when I saw the location, I saw like, wow, this is a location where it's I don't remember if you saw it, Ramon's office. It's in a corner, there's nothing around it. I was gonna be like, wow, this is gonna be a challenge for me. But again, I've always been a person to believe when there's something put in my position, I try to make the best out of it. So what I did was I started going out to the community, and I started giving out GGL cards. And then I realized that a lot of the Hispanic community in Hackensack was Ecuadorians like myself. Once I started giving out a lot of cards, I gave Will Garces the idea to come to the Hackensack office and do like an introduction of who we are and all that. And little by little, clients started coming in. Then I took a little bit of all the attorneys that worked there and tried to learn, and then that's how it was. Eventually, it grew,
So you built up that Hackensack office. And there's a little joke, being in a large firm of 135 people
Correct.
with 12 offices, rumors fly.
Yeah.
So there was a rumor out there that was addressed to me one time. Our office manager in New Brunswick, where I'm housed most of the time, came into me and said one day, why don't you like Roberto? And I looked at her and I said, who the hell's Roberto? And she said, the paralegal up in Hackensack. I said, I don't dislike Roberto. From everything I hear, he's doing a great job. But you thought from those rumors,
from the rumors,
that I had it out for you.
Correct.
I didn't even know who you were, to be candid. So, but what happens is, then I call you up one day, and what happened there?
Yeah, you asked me, hey, you live in New Brunswick? You said North Brunswick. I lived in New Brunswick at that time. Like, yeah, he's like, can you commute all the way to Hackensack? And you were like, why don't you come work for me? And I'm like, ooh.
Tell me, why were you afraid of that?
I was intimidated. Like you said, there was rumors saying that if you yourself don't hire that person for a specific department, then they don't belong in your department. So that's what I thought. Because remember, I was hired by Will Garces.
Right.
And then eventually I met you, and ever since I met you, everything's been good. You gave me the opportunity in New Brunswick, then you gave me the opportunity to work in Perth Amboy a little bit, and everything you've done for me, from then on, it's been a blessing for me.
Well, you've been great. So, you went up to Hackensack, you come out, you really aren't a paralegal. You got a little bit of training, but you go up there and you network in the community.
Correct.
Especially you start with the Ecuadorians who you're comfortable with.
Correct.
And then it just builds into the Hispanic community.
And the doctors, I met little by
doctors,
little.
and you start throughout the entire area in Hackensack. So you build that firm up,
Correct.
and then this damn managing partner calls you up and says, hey, come down and work for me as my paralegal, and pulls you out of the comfort zone again, but get you closer to home.
Correct.
And that's what I was trying to do, is get you closer to your family, your daughter, to give you more free time to spend with your family. And you've been an asset to the firm since you came there. So let's talk about you overcome the depression and the alcoholism. And I think we even talked about that. How I told you, look, I didn't drink for 30 years. And we had a little conversation on that. And you said about boxing, and you said to me, is it okay? And I said, of course, man, go box and go train people. And how's that been going for you?
Oh, it's been going great. Been going great because you have young people. For example, I had a good fighter of mine who, when I took him in, he said, hey, coach, if it wasn't for you. And not only do I coach them, like, with pads and training and stuff, I try to give them advice about life. And this kid that I was training that went to the Marines recently, he was really big into smoking weed and also depression. And one day I sat down with him, I talked to him, I gave him good advice, and ever since that, he's the one that was like, you know what, you're right, work hard. And I'd never seen a kid work as hard as him. We made it to the finals of the Golden Gloves as well. And now he's in the Marines. The next month, I'm actually going to his graduation. And being involved in the boxing, I've been able to meet other people in different gyms. I got the privilege to meet, that's how I met Coach Johnny. Right. He owns the Freehold Gym, who's the main coach for Muhammad. Me and him just, we clicked, and we have that communication where it's like, hey, why don't we see if we can work together? And thanks to him, thanks to Muhammad, they've given me the opportunity. This will be the third pro fight that I attend in the corner with him as well.
So that's Muhammad Nouri, who we had on a prior podcast.
Correct.
So you're actually training him, and you're corner man with him as well.
Correct.
But Johnny Rodriguez is his main trainer.
His main coach, correct. And same with him. It's a kid who's very humble, who has the heart for the sport. And what I see is also family, man. And people like that is what inspires me to keep going. Right. And to keep wanting to be in someone's corner like that, So, and again, thanks to GGO who's sponsoring him as well. We have the privilege to say, hey, GGO wins. Muhammad has won his 3 fights, so.
All right, he's doing a great job. And he is a very, very humble fighter, humble young man. And it's great that he's getting an education as well. Yep. You're a big part of his life now, which is great to see. But let's talk about your family life. I know you're very close with your family. You talk about how your parents were always there for you when you were going through that tough time. And that must have been very tough for your dad to watch that and be a part of that.
Of course.
And it also must have been rough on your daughter. So how's everything going now with your family?
Everything now, it's been great. Thanks to the opportunity. Like I said, the way I look at GGO is my university that I never went to. Why? Because with GGO, I was able to learn what I call a career now. And with what I learned, I'm able to provide for my family. Me being the only person in my family besides my brothers, they're U.S. citizens, I don't have that opportunity, but I was able to buy my first home, which was 2 years ago now. Right. Which I moved into my parents with me because they're still, undocumented. And my dad's 6 years old, 1 more year, nobody's going to hire him. But he has a mind and a soul of like a 15-year-old, so God bless him. I moved him in with me. My daughter was also a good part of my life because I took custody of her when she was 12. And raising her till she's going to be 18 in a couple of months, that's also been my motivation as well.
Is she graduating this year?
Just graduating from high school this year. Same high school I went to.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is she going to go to college?
She's going to go to college. We're looking into which ones. We're going to take our time, but she wants to be in the medical field.
Good for her.
So.
Well, she'll get a lot of work from us then.
Yeah, but yeah, great girl. And my life right now with my family, good, very good. What I try to, as an older son, I try to involve them in my life as much as I can because, they've done a lot for me. To me, they saved my life. So for me to provide for them now is a blessing for me.
Now, Roberto, you're talking to us about your family and how much they mean to you. Everybody talks about now a work-life balance. For me, work-life balance is sometimes challenging. A lot of my friends or people I work with, I go out a lot with people I'm working with, but I also spend a lot of time with my kids. I coach my 3 children in baseball, football, wrestling. My daughter In baseball, I go to all of her dance competitions. How do you balance the work-life balance? How do you balance the work and your family? Because just to say, you're at every event.
Yeah.
You are the greatest ambassador in the firm for GGL. I mean, you go out, you're always networking. I joke with you, I say you never miss a free meal. You're always out at these events and promoting us. How does that work?
So my family understands, especially when I was in Hackensack. One way to build Hackensack was networking, you know. I was out shaking hands, meeting new people, doctors, putting the name of GGL out there. So they know that's part of my job. So they don't get involved with that. What I do, and I do this like a routine. Either every Saturday or Sunday, I take my parents out for breakfast, and I spend a lot of time with them, you know. And every year, thank God, the bonus structure that we have, it's something that I share with them. I host a little dinner, and I bring my brothers, my mom, my dad, and I said, look, this is another year I've been successful. This is for you, this is for you, this is for you. Because I believe that whatever I do is for them. So, and as long as I keep working the way I'm working, my success, I enjoy it with them. That's the way I look at it.
That's awesome. It's great to hear. And your dad, by the way, is a great body mechanic. Tell him not to retire. My sons are too young and they keep banging up the cars. I need him. I need him to keep fixing those things.
Yeah, my dad's
he's amazing.
Yeah, he's 65, but he has a soul of like I said, a 15-year-old.
So where do you see the future? Not only with GGL, you're not going anywhere because we're not letting you, but also not with only GGL, but with the boxing, the coaching, and with your family. How do you see your future? What are the goals?
Right now with the boxing, like I said, I have the privilege to work in the corner with Coach Johnny, with Muhammad, and I wish him nothing but the best, and he has a good future, and he's going to make it far. Myself, I have an amateur fighter, a 17-year-old, who I believe was going to be an upcoming professional. The way that kid trains, the way his story is, it's a passion and he has a natural. And I believe that if me and him are sticking together, it's going to be in the pros one day too. Where I see myself in the future, as long as God gives me strength and you know, time here, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, which is work hard, provide for my parents. Eventually one day they're going to have to leave this world, but I'm going to be satisfied that I was able to do a lot for them while they were alive. And my daughter, you know, she knows the way I'm raising her to be independent, work hard, and same thing as her. I said, now you know my story. When she was a little older, I explained to her, you know, obviously she got in tears, and I said to her, don't ever let nobody tell you that you can't do anything. And if I can do it, anybody can do it.
So that's great advice. I tell that all the time when I was coaching. It's like, if I could do it, anybody could do it. It's just a matter of hard work. And you're one of the hardest working guys I know. And it's a pleasure to meet you, know you, and I love working with you. You're a great part of GGL. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.